Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Trading Bitcoin with your host, Vays, coming to you live from, oh man, where am I? I'm in Panama. I'm not in Panama City anymore. It's about a couple of hours west, I think. Wherever it is, this place is gorgeous. See a little bit of a lake behind me. That's the villa's private pool. Similar setup to places that we use for the financial summits, and really, really gorgeous place, and it's great. Let's go to the charts, and then we can talk a little bit more later. I'm not going to spend too much time on politics today, but I will get back to that very, very soon once I'm done with my trip. See, guys, part of my job is to scope out potentially high-end resorts for financial summits, because that's how I will now look to make a living. It's because at the moment, I make no money. I haven't made any money this year at all, other than my investment portfolio. So I love it how people try to demonize me. Like I'm getting messages. Oh, look at you having fun while we're dying here in Ukraine. And these are the messages that I'm getting. And well, some of us have to make a living, right? And I've made no money this year at all. And like this is what I'm trying to do. Otherwise, I'm just going to shut everything down, and then you wouldn't be able to message me at all. So it's just it's kind of frustrating. What's my opinion on Will Smith? I really couldn't care less. I honestly could not care less about Will Smith, Chris Rock, the Oscars, the Emmys. I personally couldn't care less. I care about the Ukraine situation. But anytime I suggest, what my ideas are for people to survive, everyone just hates me for it. And so, okay, fine. More people will die then. You don't want to hear my opinion on that situation, how to save lives. So, okay. Well, like I have all these debates over Ukraine, and what I suggest something is like, well, if this happens, thousands of lives will be saved, and they just get angry at me. No, we want millions to die. That's basically this is basically how the argument is. They don't say it like that, but their opinions on the situation is that, literally that. All right, let's talk charts. So, monthly chart. DJ is asking me to stick to the charts. Why? How much are you paying for this information? Like it's incredible, right? Like I provide everything for free. I make no money, and all I get is haters. It's really incredible. So monthly chart, we're in the middle of the triangle, nothing's really changing. Weekly chart, also nothing's changing. I want to make sure my charts are updating. Even if they're not updating, the price should be fairly close to what it is. I'm having this problem where whenever I go live, my charts stop updating. The current price of Bitcoin is 47,300, so it's similar to what it says here at 47,000. So the weekly chart is looking good, but it still needs to break the $52,000 line. Okay, so a lot of people got angry that I put this 40% bullish allocation up a bit hindsight lower in this candle. I'll raise it. I don't have a problem with that. We can raise it. It doesn't matter. The point is, according to the Consensio chart, like it doesn't really matter, right? I can put it up here, right? It doesn't matter. The point is, at some point in this candle, you're supposed to recognize that the Consensio trading system is telling you you need to be significantly invested in Bitcoin. Because at the start of this candle, you now have the short-term moving average above two of them. You have the short and the intermediate both rising. And the intermediate is going to cross above the long-term, if not next candle, in 8 hours. Certainly soon after that, if that candle starts to go higher, okay? And at that point, you should be more than 50% invested in Bitcoin. As much as 80%. Once you are above all three moving averages, and two of the three are rising, and the only thing that's missing is a rising long-term moving average, you can be up to 80% invested in Bitcoin without concern in the near term, because that's what Consensio model tells you to do. All right, those interested in more finance, you can come and join us at the Financial Summit in the Dominican Republic, August 1st to 6th. The daily chart has been really, really important here. The daily chart is 2 days away from an MRI top. 2 days away from an MRI top. You can see how the last 2 days have been rejected at the 200-day moving average. If we go up a little bit more, just on the body of the candle, if tomorrow we try to break 48,500 one more time and fail, it's likely we will have a pullback. I want to see this pullback. I really do. I really want to see this pullback. Go back down to that $44,500 area, setting us up for a huge rise in the price of Bitcoin. That would lead to the crossover of the 50 above the 128, okay? And eventually above all the 200-day moving averages. I'm very, very bullish on Bitcoin right now. It just has to pass one more test. This one more test in the $48,000, $49,000 range. And then we should be off to the races towards 100,000. The only other thing that's going to stop it is the top of this triangle. The top of this triangle is very likely to set Bitcoin back, especially if we go straight up. If we end up going straight up and hit 65,000 in May, in April or May, then we are very likely to get a pullback back to 46,000, back to current levels, and then break out above it on the next shot. Short-term chart. A short-term chart was looking really well. I like the fact that we pulled back to the moving average. You don't want anything going straight up. You want this a bit of a staircase thing. GBTC. I'm so disappointing that the GBTC premium isn't rising as fast, right? But it is rising. So you can see how GBTC premium has gone up. What do we got here? GBTC premium is up 13%. We're up 13% on GBTC premium, 13 absolute percent. Oh, no, sorry, 13%, not 30 absolute. 4% for absolute, and 13% rise. Okay. Now GBTC premium is up 4 points. GBTC premium needs to go up another 24 points to get back to zero. Okay, and that's what we're waiting for. Waiting for that GBTC premium to get back to zero. As the price of Bitcoin rises, GBTC premium will rise. It could rise slowly and then eventually very, very quickly as FOMO sets in into buying Bitcoin. All right. As you guys know, I'm still bullish on oil, and I remain bullish on oil. I'm still bullish on gold, and I remain bullish on gold. Stock market is on an MRI top. If this is an updated chart, it might not be. Let me refresh this, see what happens. Let's see if it works. I think the MRI top was yesterday. I should have probably checked the date before I hit the refresh button. This probably won't load. But in any case, the stock market is rising. You can see it right here in current week. And I remain bullish on the stock market. We are still in the middle of a 1 to 4 week upwards correction. I think we can get a little bit of a pullback here and then see what happens next. DJ, thank you for your nice super chat comment. Dan Anderson. I wonder if it's the same Dan Anderson as from like the 2014-15 Bitcoin days. Thank you as well. And Larry, thank you as well. Thank you guys for your super chat. Okay. There was a super chat yesterday about the monthly RSI. Come on. The monthly RSI is not that useful right now. It is on a declining trend. But I think we'll break it. I think we'll break it. I think we're going to go to the top of the triangle and we're going to break this trend. Let's see where this month closes. We only got a few days to go. Just a few days to go. I want to look at the Russian ruble. Oh my God. Is that the ruble? Oh my goodness. Wow. Wow. What does this tell you? Oh, all those drawings showed up. All the drawings that I couldn't draw yesterday showed up. What does that tell you? The ruble is at 85 rubles to US dollar. This picture is worth $1 billion. Okay. So while I don't even know what to say to this. You guys know what I want to say. If I say what I really think based on this chart, I'll get banned from YouTube. Okay. I really couldn't care less about the Ripple fork scam. I really don't care about scams anymore. I don't care if people get scammed anymore. I really couldn't care less. I really couldn't care less. How do I feel about the odds of going to 20,000 at the moment? Very small. My odds of going to 20,000 at the moment is somewhere in the vicinity of 10%. So do you guys realize that if the Russian ruble, if the value of the Russian ruble goes below these two MRI support lines at 73 and 75, it's the world is literally saying that 10 years from now, there is a greater probability that the ruble is the world reserve currency and not the US dollar. Do you guys understand what this chart means? People don't. People don't. Right? People don't understand what this chart means. Joe Biden needs a diaper change. He shouldn't be saying anything. Nobody wants GBTC because it can be confiscated. No, a lot of people want GBTC for their tax advantages. If you're an American. If you're not an American, then of course you don't need it. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, this charts like says a lot, right? And what did I say? You see this line right there? What did I say? Once we go below this line, watch it accelerate. This is a serious problem for the United States. See, this is what happens when you listen to too much propaganda on CNN. that Russians are getting their asses kicked by the Ukrainians, you get into basically they're lying to you. They're completely lying to you, and you're buying into the lies. You're buying into the lies, and more Ukrainians just get killed. You're buying into this bullshit, right? Encouraging more and more Ukrainians to fight to their death. Like, I couldn't believe how reasonable Russian terms are for a ceasefire to save Ukrainian lives. And no one is interested in signing that document. No one. Not Ukrainians that are dying, not Americans watching Ukrainians dying, nobody. Nobody. But they are interested in sending NATO so that Russia and America can nuke each other. They're very interested in that. That has huge interest in all of Europe. Europe and the United States are very interested in a nuclear war. They're very interested in it. They're not interested in Ukrainians signing a peace deal with Russia. No. That would be bad. But nuclear war, that's good. That's good. That's what they're pushing for. That's what they all want. Well, the US dollar is not falling against the Russian ruble yet. And yet is the key term. The key term here is yet. Okay. But when the ruble goes below 75 rubles per dollar, you're going to see a huge shift. Like the US Fed and the Treasury are literally going to shit themselves and maybe forget about El Salvador and realize what's actually going on a global level. No, it's not moving closer. You're listening to the wrong news. You're listening to CNN. It's not moving closer. It's not moving closer because everyone in the news is saying how the Russians are losing. How the Russians are losing. The Russians are weak. The Russian military is weak. The Ukrainians are going to win. That's all you hear. If that's all you hear, why would anyone sign that document? Right? So it's one or the other, right? Oh, sure. Yeah, sure. Right? So who's lying? Who's lying, right? If the Ukrainians are winning, why sign the papers? If they signed the papers, were Ukrainians winning? No, they downplay the threat of a nuclear war. They downplay the threat. They don't think it can happen because they're idiots. Hey, Felix, that's exactly what I said. I just said the ruble is still down against the dollar for the year. That's why the ruble needs to appreciate against the dollar for the year, right? That's why the ruble needs to get below $75, ideally even below 70, before people are going to realize, uh-oh, the US dollar has a problem. Tone, do you think Bitcoin will appreciate in a nuclear war? It probably will, but that's not why that's not why I believe in Bitcoin. I don't want that. I don't want that. The idiots that want to send anyone that is suggesting NATO interfere with this conflict, they want a nuclear war. That's what these people want. Anyone, if you hear anyone say NATO should get involved, it's like it's as if they're saying, let's have a nuclear war with Russia. That's what they're saying. That's what they may not understand that that's what they're saying, but that's what they're saying. If you at any point advocated for NATO to get involved, you are in support of a nuclear war. We need a no-fly zone. No, that's the same thing. We need a no-fly zone is your way of saying we want a nuclear war. We want to aggressively push Russia into a nuclear war with the US. Or it's another way of saying, let's have Americans die. Which is fine, which is a notable position, right? NATO should put a no-fly zone over Ukraine and shoot Russian jets down to end this once and for all. No, that is literally the start of a high probability nuclear war with Russia. I am on the opposite of that statement, right? But it's potentially that's where it's going. That's where it's going. What people don't understand is that if Putin is replaced, there is an 80% chance that the person who replaces Putin is more ruthless than Putin. If you think Putin is bad, wait till he's replaced. See, the last president of Russia before Putin was not as I don't want to use the word ruthless, it's a wrong word, was not as, and I don't want to use the word nationalist either because that has a connotation of Nazism. So I don't really have a word to use. And the word weak is not accurate either. So let's say weaker. See, the last president before Putin for Russia was weaker than Putin. And if Putin is replaced, there is a high probability that the next guy is going to be stronger and more aggressive than Putin. He might not be as smart as Putin, but he will be potentially more aggressive and stronger than Putin. And the probability of an escalation and more deaths is higher by removing Putin than not. And no one wants to even consider that possibility. I don't think Putin is crazy at all. I don't. Tone, if Ukraine fails, will NATO break up? NATO was supposed to break up a decade ago, 20 years ago. That's when NATO was supposed to break up. Is NATO going to break up? Yeah, it's going to break up. NATO is going to break up either way. Okay. Motorist says, I heard Putin doesn't drink. I have no idea if he drinks or not. If I had to guess, I'd say he doesn't drink much. I'm pretty sure I drink more than he does. All right, guys, I need to go. But I've been talking about this break of the Russian ruble below support. This is important. This is really important. Like, let's see where Germany is going to get its energy from. Guys, I'm never going on Alex Jones. I'm never going on Joe Rogan. My popularity peaked 4 years ago. Like, my views keep going down and down and down, and that's fine. I'm going to be picking up a new audience when I completely migrate to a political channel. So don't expect me on any of those shows. Ukraine's never going to join the EU, guys. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. It was never going to happen. It was all bullshit. Like, EU was lying to the Ukrainians that they were going to accept them in. It was never going to happen. Ukraine, it's too big of a population. It was too corrupt of a country. It was never going to get into the EU. They were not. It was all. They were lying. They were lying to the Ukrainians. They just wanted NATO. They were taking advantage of Ukraine to put like nukes in the country to point at Moscow. There was never any intention to get Ukraine into the EU. It was all bullshit. Ukrainians were lied to and they bought into it. And Ukraine is a single passport nation, right? So I did qualify. I was actually at the Ukrainian embassy in the US. I was looking to get my Ukrainian passport, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because they would force me to surrender all other passports. And I'm sorry, but a Ukrainian passport is not that good. It's not a good passport. I mean, prior to this conflict, the Russian passport was way better than a Ukrainian passport, in my opinion. But that's because I'm not that high on Europe. The Ukrainian passport would get you into Europe. It will let you stay in Europe easier than if you're Russian. But the world is bigger than Europe, and Europe is becoming a Marxist socialist place. I know it's still nice and it has nice restaurants and it's fairly safe to walk around the street in the evening, but it's becoming less and less and less of that every single year. So I'm not very high on Europe. And even 2 years ago, like a Russian passport, I thought was significantly stronger than a Ukrainian passport. And I do qualify for a Ukrainian passport. I don't qualify for a Russian passport. No. That one I can't get. Even if I want it, I can't get it because I surrendered it already. Surrendered the Russian passport when I was under 10 years old. I surrendered. Why are we even enemies with Russia? Oh, that's very easy, because Hillary Clinton and other people, mostly Democrats, many Republicans, they just hate Russia. The reason is because they never got out of the 1970s mindset, and they still think Russia is a communist country. The reason why the last 20 years of media have been anti-Russia is because of people like Hillary Clinton that blames Russia for everything. America blames Russia for everything. In the last 20 years, the West should have tried to make friends with Russia because China is going to be a problem. And now, when the United States and Russia and Europe blow each other to smithereens, China and their government will just rule the world. See, this conflict between Russia and the United States will just open up the floodgates for China. It's incredible how stupid the West has been in their attitude towards Russia the last 20 years, and they have brainwashed the West public. And by West, I mean United States, Canada, Australia, and Western Europe. They have completely brainwashed the citizens of all those countries to hate Russia, and that is that was their agenda, to make sure everyone hates Russia. And here we are, And by sending in NATO, you're basically on the brink of a potential nuclear war. Though considering the missiles that Russia has, those hypersonic missiles that I don't think the United States has, but Russia has, they can just, send 100 of those missiles towards the top 100 cities in the US. And I don't think there's anything the US will be able to do about it. All because a bunch of politicians made it a policy to hate Russia and make sure every single citizen that watches the news in America and Europe in the last 20 years grows up hating Russia. Where do I want to live in case of this big war? As far south as possible. Africa, Latin America. I'm down here in Panama. Heading down to Brazil next month. El Salvador is an option. Mexico is an option, though it's a little too close to the US. I think Latin America is the future if China doesn't take over. You see, Latin America is only the future if the US and Russia can find a way to settle their differences, which I don't think is possible at this point. It could have been possible, but not anymore. So when the US and Russia basically destroy each other economically and perhaps physically, the world will be an oyster for the Chinese. The Chinese will just rule the world. And this is what idiots, and I mostly blame the West for this, right? The Russia didn't want to pick a fight with the West. They really didn't. The Russia filed to be a part of NATO. And they're like, look, if you're not going to disband NATO, we want to be a part of it. And the West just laughed at that claim. For the last 20 years, until 2022, Russia has been trying to find a way to cooperate with the West, and now it's over. And now it's over. Now there's no going back. In 2020, Putin basically said, you know what, fuck it. We're tired of trying, fuck it. And now I don't think there can ever be peace there. Not in my lifetime. All Russian propaganda 20 years say US is the enemy. That is categorically false. That is categorically false. Dmitro, that is you lying. Because I have watched a lot of RT, especially during the 2012 elections. During the 2012 elections, that's when I started watching RT and Al Jazeera. I was getting my news from RT for like 2 or 3 years. Okay, because I got sick of the US media, okay? And the Russian media, all through 2012, all through 2013, it was not anti-American, because that's what I was watching. I was watching Russian news to get the truth about America, and it was not anti-American at all. So I know for a fact your statement is a lie. I was watching in Russian too. Remember, I speak Russian. Do I think Donald Trump was the best president the US ever had? Like in my lifetime, yes. I don't know about ever. I don't know about ever because I don't know US history that well. But I would say since JFK, I thought JFK was a great president. So since JFK, he was probably the best president. If Reagan did not bomb all those countries, I could have said Reagan. but Reagan was also like Biden. Reagan was also a like he had like signs of dementia as well. So the second half of Reagan's presidency was kind of like Biden's. He would just sign and say whatever they tell him. Tone, how hard was it to keep up with the Russian language throughout your life? No, it was easy. I'm very bad. I'm dyslexic when it comes to reading and writing. So I forgot how to write in Russian within 2 years. Within 2 years of not writing Russian, as a teenager, I forgot how to write in Russian because I'm dyslexic when it comes to reading and writing. But speaking and listening and understanding and comprehending verbal speech, it was easy for me. It was very easy. Yeah, correct. Putin asked for Russia to join NATO, and the Clintons laughed at him. They actually laughed at him. Like the biggest difference between Trump and Reagan was that Reagan started too many wars. That was the problem. That's why I give Trump the edge over Reagan. Right, Reagan bombed too many nations. FDR was a Marxist. FDR was not a good president. FDR was basically a communist. Herbert Hoover was actually a very smart president. Unfortunately, he had the unfortunate point in history with the stock market crash of the 1929. That's what like destroyed his presidency, and he only had one term. Yeah, Reagan's war on drugs. I mean, Reagan's done some not great things. All right, guys, keep an eye on the Russian ruble. That is basically telling you what's happened. The price of the Russian ruble is telling you what's going on. It's telling you if Russia's winning or losing, both economically and on the ground. Tony, you're gonna get banned from YouTube. Yeah, probably. Probably. Yeah, it might have been Nixon that started the war on drugs. It doesn't matter. Like Reagan, well, look, Reagan was good, but Trump was better. Tone, once Russia is done with Ukraine, which country will be next? I don't know. It depends on how much US pisses off Russia. That's all that it really is, right? It's possible that it's zero, right? Remember, Russia could have taken over Georgia. They didn't. That was back in 2008. Okay, so if Russia gets the deal that they want, the answer is none. If the U.S. and NATO keeps poking the bear, honestly, I think Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania. And you know why? Because if Putin gets pushed too much, he may just call NATO's bluff. He may just say, you know what? I think you NATO people are full of shit. And I think you got nothing. I don't think you have the money. I don't think you have the military strength. I don't think you have the balls to do anything. So if this Ukrainian deal isn't signed, and Putin is already the most evil person on the planet since Hitler, if any country is next, it's those NATO countries. Not because he doesn't like those countries, not because he wants the land of those countries, but because he's gonna, show the US and NATO that he's not scared of them. And they are very small countries on the Russian border. And he may just, if this Ukraine situation goes badly, I can see him making an announcement. Either remove NATO from Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, or I'm going to go and destroy those bases. So that's my pessimistic vision of the future if the Ukraine peace deals don't work out. Sounds like someone is rooting for more war. Yes, you Felix, you are rooting for more war. You are. Like, I personally don't think, Russian people don't have anything against other people. Well, that's too general of a statement, but so we are talking about the politics. We're talking about the politicians. I don't think Russia is interested in the land of Latvia and Estonia and Lithuania. I don't think they are. I think they're perfectly okay with those three countries being their own countries. But I think that if Russia is pissed off enough, they're going to show the US that they have stronger military. And they may go after those countries only because they have NATO in them. And I think the probability of people in those three countries potentially dying from a military conflict is to remove NATO from those countries. But the world sees it the complete opposite way. Yeah, I would be scared shitless if I was in Estonia or Latvia. And by the way, my grandfather is buried. My grandfather. Sorry, my grandma is buried in Latvia, in Riga, Latvia, is where my grandma is buried. Okay, that's where my grandfather lived. That's where my grandmother lived. Okay, but they weren't born there, but they moved there later. Okay, but that's where they grew up. That's where one of my parents grew up. After the age of 16, one of my parents moved from Ukraine to Latvia. It was Jurmala, Latvia. It's not far from Riga, Latvia. And I've been to Riga and Jurmala, Latvia several times back in 2016, 17, 18, 19. And if I was running those countries, I would seriously consider getting NATO the fuck out of my country, because that is the biggest risk. The biggest risk to those countries is having NATO there. Because if Russian military makes an assessment that the US ain't got shit and they're not scared of the US military, that's who's gonna feel it. Maybe Poland, but probably those three countries. Poland would only feel it if Poland actually sends the troops in. Yeah, Poland's in a little bit of trouble too. But the thing is, Poland's been Poland ain't going to. Poland's going to be a NATO nation. Like Poland ain't going to kick NATO out. But Latvia and Lithuania should seriously consider it. Tone, why don't people in Eastern Europe understand that the West, especially the UK and US, doesn't respect them? Only Russia. I don't really understand the question. The US is only interested in one thing, US. That's it. The US is one of the most selfish countries in the world. They only care about one thing, US. Well, of course, those people are relieved to be in NATO because that's what they've been taught for 20 years. That's what they've been. That's what they've been taught for 20 years. Of course, they're relieved. NATO's there, right? Of course they are. You know, they don't realize that the soldiers that surround their country are in a way inviting military conflict from their neighbor. Can I get a Latvian passport? I probably can, but just like Ukraine, Latvia is a single passport country. And the reason these are single passport countries is because they're stupid, right? Because the former Soviet republics like Ukraine, like Russia, like Ukraine, like Latvia, they hate Russia so much after they broke off that they made all of these rules because they're scared of Russia. They've been scared of Russia. They've been shitlessly scared of Russia for 30 freaking years for no reason whatsoever, right? I mean, you can debate the statement because Russia just, invaded Ukraine. So you can say, hey, Ukraine was right to be scared of Russia for 30 years, right? But to me, that's silly, okay? Ukraine should have been made a compromise deal between Russia and US and stay neutral to avoid invasion. But the Ukrainians have been basically, that's why Ukrainians don't allow you to be a dual citizen, because they don't want people to be Russians and Ukrainians. Latvians don't want you to be a dual citizen because they don't want people to have a Latvian passport and a Ukrainian and a Latvian passport and a Russian passport, right? So now they're preventing people like myself for having X number of passports plus Latvian, okay? All because to this day, their mentality is communism failed. Communism failed in Eastern Europe. The only way communism comes back to Eastern Europe is by being brainwashed by the West. See, the more West you are, the more Marxist mentality you have. Canada, the United States, France, Germany, like Australia, though they're not really West, they're kind of on their own prison island, right? The more West you are, the more Marxist communist mentality you have. The further east you go, okay, the less communist mentality you have. Russia has a less communist mentality than the countries that joined the European Union. And like those former Soviet republics still don't have that communist mentality because communism failed. But this is why I think the European Union is way more Marxist than the former Soviet republics. But the former Soviet republics are being brainwashed by the West into communism. The shit that broke up when they got to become their own countries. It's really fascinating to watch. It's insane how brainwashed people are. So a guy with a Litecoin logo is telling me that I don't know anything about Russia and Ukraine, considering I'm half Russian and half Ukrainian, and this is a shitcoiner telling me this. That's incredible. China is a little bit different. I didn't mention China for a reason. All right, guys, I need to go. I wasn't going to talk politics today, but I saw the ruble and it kind of got me started. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you all for watching. Hope I still have some followers, and see you all on the next one.